Shalom, Bethel family, and other friends who I have been informed sometimes also watch. Glad to have all of you with me as we review our Torah Talk from this past Saturday at Congregation Bethel here in Norfolk. So this past week we celebrated we celebrated Yom HaAtzmaut after commemorating Yom HaZikaron, Israeli Memorial Day is Yom HaZikaron, which flows right into Yom HaAtzmaut, right into Israeli Independence Day. A reminder for us that the existence of the State of Israel would not be possible if extraordinary sacrifices, and sometimes even the ultimate sacrifice, had not been made by so many to protect the Jewish people there. The parsha was Tazria-Metzorah, and that is a very interesting parsha about leprosy and spiritual nature of disease, but we really focused in on these Israeli days in Shul, and we talked about the question with Yom HaAtzmaut, Israeli Independence Day, coming, and the 69th anniversary of the existence of Israel as a modern nation. We raised the question, is the existence of the State of Israel a miracle? And then we raised it based on a passage that we add to our davening, we add to our prayers in the Siddur on Yom HaAtzmaut. And the passage begins, Al ha-nisim vil al ha-porkan vil ha-gvurot vil ha-tshuot vil ha-milchamot she'asita lavotenu bayamim hahem bazman hazeh, which translates roughly to, we thank you for the miraculous deliverance, for the heroism, and for the triumphs of our ancestors from ancient days until our time. It's very interesting to refer to Israel as a miracle, right? Al Hanisim, on the miracles. So this passage, by adding it to our prayers, says Israel is a miracle. Interesting, this passage is recited on two other holidays. The first is Hanukkah, the second Purim. And also it's to note that those holidays celebrate human victories as well. On Hanukkah, the victory of the Maccabees, the ancient band of guerrillas who defeated the superpower of its time, the Syrian Greeks, in order to gain independence, if briefly in Jewish history in Israel. And Purim, which famously God is absent from the Megillat Esther, from the story as we read it, and again a human victory. But these passages, this Al Hanisim passage, equates the human victory with some kind of divine intervention, that sometimes miracles, they come from God, but we are the vessels through which they flow. So the question is, does the state of Israel actually fall under that status as a miracle? And we talked a lot first to define what exactly is a miracle. Many suggestions were made in Shul on Saturday morning. The first one was that something supernatural. But the truth is that may not be an adequate description, because some miracles are not supernatural. Right? Let's take the plague of locusts, for example, that afflicts Egypt. That plague, locusts, affect Egypt regularly. I remember not actually too many years ago, a huge swarm of locusts ravaged the crops in the modern day state of Egypt. So that's not necessarily a miracle in and of itself. Another person pointed out that the miracle, though, may be the locust coming on demand, right? It's that Moses could predict the coming of the locusts on cue. Similarly, it seems to me that the parting of the Red Sea is supernatural, the classic supernatural miracle. Some people do try and to explain it. There was a tidal wave and the water receded and then it came back. But again, the miracle then is all in the timing, that it happened exactly when needed, when the Jewish people were on the shores, and it closed up again upon the Egyptians. Right, so that would be supernatural, but that's not necessarily the definition. Maybe it's that they're called upon on cue. But then we dug a little deeper and we explored the idea that miracles sometimes are in the eye of the beholder. that I might see something as miraculous and you might see it as otherwise. I gave the description of when my boys were babies, I used to go and look in the crib. And the fact that their breathing continued, I always saw as miraculous. What wound up this little machine that, God willing, keeps it going for decades and decades and decades, a long and healthy, full life? Doesn't make any sense. This little thing that can't do anything else, it just keeps breathing, keeps living. To me, a miracle. Someone else could see us. That's a human being doing what human beings do. Hearts beat, lungs breathe. It's not a miracle, it's just nature. So in some sense, a miracle can be in the eye of the beholder. And certainly the state of Israel would fit that bill. For those who think of it as miraculous, I think that could be, in that sense, a matter of perspective. It's miraculous to them, what it's meant for their families, for our people. You could say that there's a supernatural nature to the timing, that the state of Israel would be built just 3 years, or declared just 3 years, and founded 3 years after the greatest disaster in the history of the Jewish people, 6 million dead in the Shoah. And here the state of Israel appears when we are at our weakest, when we are at our lowest. That seems to have a certain miraculous nature to it. There's one more definition of a miracle that I want to share. And that's one that I learned from Rabbi David Hartman, alav shalom, founder of the Hartman Institute in Israel. In his commentary on the parting of the Red Sea, he says that, I don't know that anything supernatural happened at the Red Sea. I don't know that events happen exactly the way we see them here. But sometimes when things are totally inexplicable, totally incomprehensible, completely impossible to understand with regular human language and the way the world is supposed to work, that in those cases, we use the language of miracle because we don't have other language. So who knows what the people standing at the Red Sea with the Egyptians pressing them towards the waters, who knows what really happened to rescue them? We know two people who witnessed the same event would describe it perhaps totally differently. But we know that what happened was so powerful, so unexpected, so against the odds. Right? Another definition of something being miraculous, just very, very unlikely, so against the odds, that ultimately the only language that could be used to describe it was with something that could not possibly be seen in nature. And that, my friends, is to me the miracle of the state of Israel. That the Jewish people, at our lowest, could create a state in its former homeland, could revive the Hebrew language, the only language in the history of humanity that has ever died, quote unquote, right? Ceased to be used as a vernacular in any context or sense of the word, and then been revived. No language has been revived. It doesn't work that way. Languages fade out, are forgotten, but not Hebrew, not in the miraculous state of Israel. The existence of the Hebrew language as a spoken vernacular is in and of itself a miracle. In fact, what makes Israel miraculous is it is so many miracles wrapped up all into one. Miracles of improbability, miracles of unlikelihood, of miracles of things happening that we can't quite explain, decisions being made militarily that should not have been made or can't imagine would have been made. So many things. The miracle of the timing, the miracle of the Jewish people being at their lowest point in 2,000 years, only to 3 years later actually have that homeland that they've been looking towards for 2,000 years to call their own. Indeed, I believe, from my perspective, and I think for many, the state of Israel is a miracle, and this Al-Hanisim passage certainly should be recited. And within the Al-Hanisim passage, after we declare it a miracle of maybe human making, maybe of divine acting through humanity, we talk about all the things that were miraculous. So many different things, and the miracle of having now a refuge to go to if we are ever threatened again. But my friends, if the Al-Hanisim is correct, and if it is true that sometimes God's miracles are worked through human hands, our hands, then that also comes with a tremendous amount of responsibility, right? Miracles do still happen, but it's us who has to make them happen. God can still be felt as a presence in the world, but one of the ways that we help others to feel that presence is through our own human activities. That is our responsibility. The state of Israel is a miracle, but it's in part a miracle because of those who fought and who imagined and who advocated and who supported for the state of Israel to exist. Only through them could this amazing divine miracle take place. That means that we also have that power, that similar miracles, unimaginable things can be accomplished through our activities. Yom HaAtzmaut this year and every year is an opportunity for us to reflect. Are we contributing towards the miracles? Are we contributing towards those unimaginable, beautiful, sacred things happening in the world? I pray that the answer to that for all of us is yes. We all use our imaginations and our vision and our advocacy and our resources to help make God's presence felt here in the world through our own activities, the activities of our communities. And together, we will continue to make miracles happen. Shuei Yom Ha'atzmaut Sameach. I hope you had a happy Israeli Independence Day, and Shabbat Shalom for this coming Shabbat.